So let me start by asking you a quiz question. And when we get a little further into the reading tonight, maybe you'll be able to answer it. So the quiz question is, what is the true contrast between Kent and Oswald? What are their similarities and what are the contrasts? Because remember I said that in a great Shakespeare play, every character is a foil for every other character in some way, because they're all pointing toward the center, towards the thematic center of the play. And they're all doing different versions of the same kind of thing. So I'm going to read a little now of, well, we're going to start where we left off. We're going to start at the beginning of Act 2. And I'm not going to be able to read every line of the play in the time I have, but I'm going to skip through. But we'll read some of those parts which may give you an answer to my question. I won't collect your papers afterwards. So Curran, who's not a significant character, comes in with a rumor, and the rumor is that there may be a war between Cornwall and Albany. Why are we not surprised? Because in the division of the kingdom, Lear's idea of preventing future strife now is ridiculous, foolish. So Edmund says in soliloquy, "The Duke be here tonight, the better. Best. This weaves itself perforce into my business. My father hath set guard to take my brother, and I have one thing of queasy question which I must act." And so what does he do? He acts out this pantomime, this kind of play, in which he's pretending to Edgar to be on his side and protecting him. You better get away, you're in danger. And then he cuts himself in the arm to pretend to his father that he's been wounded by his brother Edgar. I have seen drunkards do more than this in sport. And so when Gloucester comes in, where's the villain? Edmund says at line 38, "Here stood he in the dark, his sharp sword out, mumbling of wicked charms, conjuring the moon to stand auspicious mistress." Which is kind of ironic, because Edgar hasn't been doing any such thing, but he will be doing that in a little while, pretending to be mad. Where is he? Look, sir, I bleed. Where is the villain? Fled this way when by no means he could persuade me to the murder of your lordship. And then he called me, thou unpossessing bastard. And of course, that drives Gloucester into his reaction to that, imagining that it's true. I'm going to work the means to make you capable of my lance. So Edmund is now going to be made the heir to Gloucester's land by total trickery and skullduggery. Okay. Enter Cornwall, Regan in attendance. Cornwall, how now, my noble friend, since I came hither, which I can call but now I've heard strange news. If it be true, all vengeance comes too short, which can pursue the offender. So they've heard all the stories about Edgar that Edmund has set up. "Oh, madam, my old heart is cracked." It's cracked. Echo through the play. Because what's going to crack in Lear? His mind. Yeah. So we've got heart and mind here. "Did my father's godson seek your life? He whom my father named, your Edgar? Oh, lady, lady, shame would have it hid." And then Regan, "Was he not companion with the riotous knights that tended upon my father?" Gloucester doesn't know. There's no evidence that he was. But Edmund, "Yes, madam, he was of that consort." In other words, he jumps at every opportunity to make use of whatever's happening to build his position. No marvel then, though he were ill affected, 'tis they have put him on the old man's death. That is, my father's knights are the ones guilty of convincing Edgar to kill his father, which we know isn't true. Hello. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
I'm teaching King Lear.
Is there anyone that is in your HR department that is available right
No,
now?
not now. You have to come in the daytime.
Oh, this is a private?
Yeah, it's not church.
Oh, okay. My mistake.
It's okay.
Thank you very much.
Come in the daytime, you'll find someone.
In the daytime, nobody's in
Yeah,
here? Thank you, sir. I'm sorry for interrupting.
it's okay. They have put him on the old man's death to have the expense and waste of his revenues. I have this present evening from my sister been well informed of them, etc. So the girls are building up this great fiction about Lear's men leading everybody astray. And Edmund is building up this great fiction about Edgar rebelling against his father. And they're now going to join forces. If he be taken, says Cornwall, he shall never more be feared of doing harm. And then he wants Edmund to serve him. And Gloucester says, your graces are right welcome, and that's not going to last long either. All right, Act 2, Scene 2, we come to Oswald in Kent. So my quiz question, some of you missed it at the beginning, was, what is the real difference between Oswald and Kent? What's the similarity? What's the difference? Good dawning to thee, friend, art of this house? Aye. Where may we set our horses? In the mire. Prithee, if thou lovest me, tell me. If thou lovest me is just a formula, right? If you please. I love thee not. He takes it literally. Why then I care not for thee. If I had thee in Lipsbury pinfold, I would make thee care for me. Had you, in other words, between my lips, between my teeth. Why dost thou use me thus? I know thee not. I know thee. What dost thou know me for? Now, this is one of the great insults in the history of the world. A knave, a rascal, an eater of broken meats, a base, proud, shallow, beggarly, three-suited, 100-pound, filthy, worsted stocking knave. A lily-livered, action-taking, horse and glass-gazing, super-serviceable, finical rogue. One trunk inheriting slave, one that would be a bawd in way of good service, and art nothing but the composition of a knave, beggar, coward, pander, and the son and heir of a mongrel bitch. One whom I will beat into clamorous whining if thou deniest the least syllable of thy addition. Addition means description here. So if you want, I can identify each of those things. They're all about not having much, pretending to be more, and of course villainously serving the will of Goneril. Why, what a monstrous fellow art thou, thus to rail on one that is neither known of thee nor knows thee. What a brazen-faced varlet art thou, to deny thou knowest me. Is it 2 days ago since I tripped up thy heels and beat thee before the king? Beat him because, remember, he was insulting the king. Who am I? My lady's father. Draw, you rogue, for though it be night, yet the moon shines. I'll make a sop of the moonshine of you. I'm going to put holes in you so you can soak up the moonshine. You horse and cullionly barbermonger, draw. So this tells us what kind of character Oswald is. As Diana Maddox used to say, she was the first dramaturg with whom I learned the craft. A character is created in our minds in Shakespeare, not only by everything the character himself or herself says, but by everything said about the character by the other characters. So if he says to Oswald, you are a horse and cullionly barbermonger, that is somewhat effeminate and a frequenter of barbers, meaning caring about what you look like, right? Finicky, foppish. And Oswald will not draw. So all that stuff about his being a coward is true. I mean, he's been insulted in the most absolute way. And a gentleman, any gentleman, responding to this would say, those are fighting words. We're now going to have a duel. You can't not if you're going to be honorable. But no, sir, not Oswald. I have nothing to do with thee. Draw, you rascal. You come with letters against the king, and take Vanity the puppet's part against the royalty of her father. Draw, you rogue, or I'll so carbonado your shanks. Draw, you rascal. Come your ways. Help! Murder! Help! He won't stand. He won't draw. He won't strike. So Kent can't really do much to him because, except carbonado his shanks, meaning beat on his shins. Because he's not standing up for himself. So there's no fight there. Edmund comes in and says, what's the matter, part? And Kent says, with you, Goodman boy, if you please. I'll take you on too if you want to get in the way. This is Kent versus Edmund. Don't you wish he would? Yeah. And finish him now before it's too late? Weapons, arms, what's the matter here? Cornwall, keep peace upon your lives. He dies that strikes again. So he's cut into the battle between Kent and Edmund. They were already exchanging sword thrusts, let's say. What's your difference? I'm scarce in breath, my lord. I can hardly breathe. I've fought so hard. Kent, ironically, no marvel you have bestirred your valor. A tailor made thee. A stonecutter or a painter could not have made him so ill. Okay, how grows your quarrel? This ancient ruffian, sir, whose life I have spared at shoot of his gray beard, we know he's 48 years old. But Oswald's pretending that he's spared his life. Thou whoreson Zed, that means Z, thou unnecessary letter. My lord, if you will give me leave, I will tread this unbolted villain into mortar and daub the wall of a jakes with him. A jakes is a privy. Anger hath a privilege. Why art thou angry? That such a slave as this should wear a sword who wears no honesty. Such smiling rogues as these, like rats, oft bite the holy cords of twain, which are two entrenched unloose. You know, the Gordian knot that Alexander cut instead of trying to untie. So this is the opposite metaphor. This is the true cords tying together the bonds of nature, and he is cutting them. That is, Oswald is cutting them. Smooth every passion that in the natures of their lords rebel. Smoothing the passions that in the natures of their lords rebel. Just the opposite of what he did. What's thou do, old man? He said to Lear in the first scene, remember? And here's Oswald saying to Goneril, whatever you want, of course. You know, you want to do this horrible thing, I'm with you. Disobeying the king, especially. They bring oil to fire, snow to the colder moods. In other words, when the fire's already hot, they heat it up. When it's cold, when something's too cold, they put more ice on it, or snow. Renege, affirm, and turn their halcyon beaks with every gale and vary of their masters. Knowing not like dogs, but following. Shakespeare didn't like dogs very much. He didn't like them because they were fawning, subdued creatures. It's his one mistake in life that I know of. I don't know of any other faults in Shakespeare. There was a little bit of adultery. But he was young, but there's almost no dog that is, I think there's not one. There may be one mention of a dog that's a good dog, but most dogs are no good. A plague upon your epileptic visage. Smile you my speeches as I were a fool. If I had you on Sarum Plain, I'd drive you cackling home to Camelot. What, art thou mad, old fellow? How fell you out? Say that. No contraries hold more antipathy than I in such a knave. That's my quiz question. Why dost thou call him knave? What is his fault? He's not going to tell him. He's not going to tell Cornwall. The king more affected Albany than Cornwall. Kent doesn't trust Cornwall. His countenance likes me not. I don't like his face. No more perchance does mine nor his nor hers. There's Regan there too. Sir, 'tis my occupation to be plain. I have seen better faces in my time than stands on any shoulder that I see before me at this instant. That tells us a couple of things. Number one, yes, he's insulting them, but they're not royalty like the king, and they're not behaving like royalty. But also, the disguise he's wearing, he shaved his beard, is to be this plain speaking man. He said it to the king, right? Remember we said all that list and eat no fish? So here he is being plain. It's my occupation to be plain. So Cornwall, instead of taking this plainness as a virtue, takes it in its most negative way. This is some fellow who, having been praised for bluntness, doth affect a saucy roughness, and constrains the garb quite from his nature. He cannot flatter, he. An honest mind and plain, he must speak truth, and they will take it so. If not, at least he's plain. These kind of knaves I know, which in this plainness harbor more craft and more corrupt their ends than 20 silly ducking observants that stretch their duties nicely. So he's saying, I trust him less than I trust someone like Oswald. So now Kent says, oh, you want to play the fancy game, the courtly game, the non-plain speaking game? I can do that, watch. Sir, in good faith, in sincere verity, under the allowance of your great aspect, whose influence like the wreath of radiant fire on flickering Phoebus' front. Notice the alliteration. Notice the exaggeration. What means by this? To go out of my dialect, which you discommend so much. That is to speak not plainly, since you didn't like my speaking plainly. I can do the other thing too. I know, sir, I am no flatterer. He that beguiled you in a plain accent was a plain knave, which for my part I will not be, though I should win your displeasure to entreat me to it. So then he goes to Oswald. What was the offense you gave him? I never gave him any, blah, blah, blah. None of these rogues and cowards, but Ajax is their fool. The great hero, Ajax, is nothing compared to the talk of such men as Oswald. Fetch forth the stocks. You stubborn ancient knave, you reverend braggart, we'll teach you. All right, what's wrong with this? Sir, I am too old to learn. Call not your stocks for me. I serve the king. Never mind the disguise. I serve the king. The king hired him, remember? Even in disguise. He's a servant. He's a messenger from the king. If you're a messenger from the king, you cannot be put in the stocks, rightly. You are immune from anything except under the authority of the king. So if you go to the king and say, your servant is doing X, Y, Z and I don't like it, the king can go discipline him. But you can't discipline him in place of the king because he's under the royal protection. So they're overruling that royal protection. It doesn't mean anything to them. He says, you shall show small respect, show too bold malice against the grace and person of my master, stalking his messenger. The king had said, I will keep the name and all the addition to a king. He thought he could. Fetch forth the stock, says Cornwall. As I have life and honor, there shall he sit till noon. Now watch Regan. Till noon, till night, my lord, and all night too. Like, it's not her idea to fetch forth the stocks, it's his. But once she gets it, she goes to the next step. Why, madam, if I were your father's dog, you should not use me so. Sir, being his knave, I will. All right. So Gloucester pipes up, don't do this. This is not going to be taken well by the king. He still feels the authority of the king. But they do it anyway. I'm sorry for thee, friend, says Gloucester. 'Tis the Duke's pleasure, whose disposition all the world well knows will not be rubbed nor stopped. I'll entreat for thee. What? Another guy? with the ego like this, who cannot be stopped, who cannot be rubbed, who can't take no for an answer? How many of these are there that we have to put up with? I'll entreat for thee, says Gloucester, and Kent says, pray do not, sir. I have watched and traveled hard. Sometime I shall sleep out, the rest I'll whistle. A good man's fortune may grow out at heels. Boy, there's an understatement for this play.
What's your point about that?
A good man's fortune may grow out at heels. Out at heels is like out at elbow. You're wearing out your shoes. You know, you're down on your luck. And that could happen to a good man. I'm a good man, and I'm out of luck, and now they're putting me in the stocks, which is pretty low. And remember, after all, he's not Caius. In fact, he's the Earl of Kent they're putting in the stocks. So we're doubly horrified. The stocks is a punishment only for the lowest of the low, not for an aristocrat or even for a servant of the king. The Duke's to blame in this, 'twill be ill taken, and he goes out. Now Kent has a soliloquy. Good king that must approve the common saw, thou out of heaven's benediction comes to the warm sun. The common saw. We would say out of the frying pan into the fire, right? It's no better to be out of the frying pan if when you're out of it, you're in the fire. So you're coming out of heaven's benediction into the warm sun. It's not a good switch. It's not a good sacrifice to sacrifice heaven's benediction just to come into the warm sun. Approach, thou beacon, to this underglobe, that by thy comfortable beams I may peruse this letter. Nothing almost sees miracles but misery. Almost nothing sees miracles but misery. You don't see miracles unless you're at the lowest. There's that word, nothing. He's got a letter from Cordelia, who's been informed of my obscured course, my disguise, in other words, and shall find time from this enormous state, seeking to give losses their remedies. All weary in our watch, take vantage, heavy eyes, not to behold this shameful lodging. He wants to sleep. Fortune, good night, smile once more, turn thy wheel. Remember the Wheel of Fortune? I don't mean the TV show. Fortuna is an ancient Roman goddess. The Christians of the Middle Ages adopted her as an image of the force that controls the flow of the goods of the world, fortune. Wealth, success, political triumph, whatever it is. And she was pictured blindfolded with her feet on the globe of the world, turning a wheel. And at the top of the wheel was a picture of a king, or sculpture, depending on how the image goes. And at the bottom was a beggar, poor and miserable. And falling down the right side as she turns the wheel was a king becoming a beggar. And climbing up the left side as she turned her wheel was a beggar becoming a king. Only she doesn't stop when she gets to that point. She just keeps turning. So everything moves and flows. And this is why in Hamlet and elsewhere, Fortuna is called a strumpet, or whore, because she's not faithful to any one man. She'll give and then she'll take it away again. So turn thy wheel. I'm at the lowest part of fortune here in the stocks. Turn thy wheel and let's come up again. All right, Edgar, Act 2, Scene 3. I heard myself proclaimed, and by the happy hollow of a tree escaped the hunt. So I don't think it's an accident that he escaped in the hollow of a tree, and we've just seen Kent in the stocks. Stocks mean sticks or boards. So they're both being reduced to the fundamental embrace of wood. No port is free, no place that guard in most unusual vigilance does not attend my taking. Whiles I may scape, I will preserve myself, and am bethought to take the basest and most poorest shape that ever penury and contempt of man brought near to beast. So Kent has brought how can we put this? Kent has chosen to lower himself in order to serve the king. And now he's been lowered even further by this nastiness of Cornwall and Regan to the level of the stocks. Edgar is choosing, I mean, he's been brought low also. He's been banished, he's been kicked out, he's been pursued, he would be attacked if he were caught. So he's also going down fortune's wheel, and now he's going to put himself even lower. And in fact, he's going to imitate the lowest kind of thing you can be as a human being. A mad, begging slave. Madness, begging, and slavery are the lowest human occupations or conditions. My face I'll grime with filth, blanket my loins, elf all my hairs in knots, and with presented nakedness outface the winds and persecutions of the sky. I'm just going to run wild to avoid being caught. The country gives me proof and precedent of Bedlam beggars. Bedlam is short for Bethlehem, and it was the name of the madhouse in Shakespeare's time and a bit earlier. And it was called Bethlehem, of course, because it was a place where they tried to take care of mad people in the best way they could, which wasn't very much. So it comes to mean Bedlam, which is where we get our word for madness, or place of madness. The country gives me proof and precedent of Bedlam beggars who with roaring voices strike in their numbed and mortified bare arms, pins, wooden pricks, nails, sprigs of rosemary. They're sticking pins in themselves. And with this horrible object, from low farms, poor pelting villages, sheepcotes and mills, sometimes with lunatic bands, sometimes with prayers, enforce their charity. In other words, beg alms by making themselves horrible in this way. Poor Turligod, poor Tom. He's pretending. That's something yet. Edgar, I nothing am. Oh, there's that word again. What does this mean? Edgar, I nothing am. I'm not going to be Edgar at all. I'm not even going to look like Edgar. I'm just going to be this other being. So that's one level of it. But he's also lowering himself to almost the level of nothing. Why? To save himself. The only way up is down. Canst thou make no use of nothing, nuncle? No, nothing can be made out of nothing. Wrong. In this case, it's going to save his life. And not only his life, as we will see. Enter Lear. 'Tis strange that they should so depart from home and not send back my messenger. They didn't intend to do that, says the gentleman. They just left when they heard you were coming. Kent from the stocks. Hail to thee, noble master. Ha! Makest thou this shame thy pastime? No, my lord. Fool. Ha ha! He wears cruel garters. Horses are tied by the heads, dogs and bears by the neck, monkeys by the loins, and men by the legs. When a man's over lusty at legs, then he wears wooden nether stocks, meaning stockings, with a pun on stocks, meaning wood, sticks. What's he that hath so much thy place mistook to set thee here? It is both he and she, your son and daughter. No. Yes. No, I say. I say yea. No, they would not. Yes, they have. By Jupiter, I swear no. By Juno, I swear aye. You want to swear? What's going on here? What is Lear doing?
Getting angry.
Yes, but it's not just anger. What? He's denying the reality. He's denying reality. No, I'm not going to believe it. I don't want to believe it. Well, he's got a lot of reason not to believe it. She's the last hope, Regan. She's treating her father's messenger like this. Not a good sign. He can't bear to absorb the truth. And his willfulness is in show. And there's Kent telling him the truth. Doesn't want to hear it. They durst not do it. They would not, could not, would not do it. 'Tis worse than murder to do upon respect such violent outrage. Resolve me with all modest haste, which way thou mightst deserve, or they impose this usage coming from us. Still using the royal plural. So then Kent tells the story. I'm not going to read it all. They read it, they left. They gave me cold looks. Oswald's visit poisoned mine, being the very fellow which of late displayed so saucily against your highness. I, having more man than wit about me, drew. He raised the house with loud and coward cries. Your son and daughter found this trespass worth the shame which here it suffers. And the fool says, winter's not gone yet if the wild geese fly that way. Fathers that wear rags do make their children blind, but fathers that bear bags shall see their children kind. Fortune, that errant whore, ne'er turns the key to the poor. What does he mean? Fathers that wear rags shall make their children blind. Fathers that bear bags shall see their children kind. You know, if you've got money, the kids will be nice to you until you die and leave it to them. If you haven't got any money, why should they bother? That's the point. Now, of course, they should bother if they're going to be kind, right? If they're going to behave the way children ought to behave. But these daughters are not in that category. But for all this thou shalt have as many dolours for thy daughters as thou canst tell, meaning count, in a year. Oh, how this mother swells up toward my heart. Hysterica passio down, thou climbing sorrow, thy elements below. He's going mad. The passion is rising from the heart. Okay, we don't have to go into all the whole medieval Renaissance physiology of the humors and all that. The point is that from certain organs come these different passions. And the hysterica passio, the passion of hysteria, is coming up from his guts. And he's trying to suppress it.
Kohler?
Well, it's more than Kohler. It's wild madness. It's wild madness. Where is this daughter with the earl here, with the earl, sir, here within? Follow me not, stay here. Kent says, how chanced the king come with so small a number? And the fool says, had thou hadst been set in the stocks for that question, thou'dst well deserved it. Why? Says Kent. We'll set thee to school to an ant, to teach thee there's no laboring in the winter. All that follow their noses are led by their eyes, but blind men. And there's not a nose among 20 men, but can smell him that's stinking. They all left him because they saw he was going down. Let go thy hold when a great wheel runs down a hill, lest it break thy neck with following. But the great one that goes upward, let him draw thee after. You know, follow the guy that's going to win the election, but run away from the one that's going to lose it. Not election in this case, but the same idea. When a wise man gives thee better counsel, give me mine again. I would have none but knaves follow it, since a fool gives it. In other words, what I'm giving you is advice that I would hate. But it's the advice that the guys who've abandoned the king have been listening to. That, sir, which serves and seeks for gain and follows but for form, will pack when it begins to rain and leave thee in the storm. We haven't even had a storm yet, but there's going to be one. But I will tarry, the fool will stay. Foolishness, the fool. It's foolish to remain with somebody that's going down at one level, at the worldly level. But I will tarry, the fool will stay, and let the wise man fly, the so-called wise man fly. The knave turns fool that runs away, the fool no knave perdie. So the knave who is a knave because he's running away from the king is deeply and truly a fool. He's valuing all the wrong things. And the fool who stays is no knave, no villain. Kent, where learned you this, fool? Not in the stocks, fool. Deny to speak with me. They are sick, they are weary, they have traveled all the night. Mere fetches. The images of revolt and flying off. Fetch me a better answer. My dear lord, says Gloucester, you know the fiery quality of the Duke, how unremovable and fixed he is in his own course. Vengeance, plague, death, confusion. Fiery? I mean, it's Shakespeare's medium is words, right? But Lear's medium is only words now. He can't do anything but just... Why, Gloucester, I'd speak with the Duke of Cornwall and his wife. I, meaning the king. Well, my good lord, I've informed them so. Informed them, dost thou understand me, man? The king would speak with Cornwall. The dear father would with his daughter speak. Commands, tends, service. Command service is waiting for service. Are they informed of this? My breath and blood. Fiery? The fiery Duke? Tell the hot Duke that... No. But not yet. He stops himself. Can't believe that. Can't go there. Too scary. Maybe he is not well. Infirmity doth still neglect all office, whereto our health is bound. We are not ourselves when nature being... If he's sick, it's understandable. I'll forbear. I am fallen out with my more headier will. I'm going against my headier, my looser, more passionate willfulness. To take the indisposed and sickly fit for the sound man. I shouldn't treat poor Cornwall, if he's sick, like a sound man and yell at him. And then he lurks around and he sees Kent again in the stocks. Death on my state, wherefore should he sit here? This act persuades me that this remotion of the Duke and her is practice only, meaning cunning, plotting. Practice means plotting. Give me my servant forth. Go tell the Duke and his wife I'd speak with him. Now, presently, bid them come forth and hear me, or at their chamber door I'll beat the drum till it cries sleep to death. Gloucester, I'd have all well betwixt you. Good luck. Oh, me, my heart, my rising heart, but down. Get that hysterica passio back down where it belongs. Don't come up to mess up the brain. The fool says, cry to it, nuncle, as the cockney did to the eels when she put them in the paste alive. So what kind of woman puts eels in the eel pie alive? No. No. Close. Stupid. Stupid. Just dumb. She napped them o'er the coxcombs with a stick and cried, down, wantons, down. As if they were going to get down by themselves, which eels aren't going to do. 'Twas her brother, meaning equally stupid, that in pure kindness to his horse buttered his hay. He's calling the king stupid. This is not going to work. Pushing it back down is going to work about as well as the cockney hitting the eels over the head with a stick. They enter. Good morrow to you both. Hail to your grace. Kent is set at liberty. I'm glad to see your highness. Regan, I think you are. He sees Kent is free. Some other time for that. Beloved Regan, thy sister's naught. She hath ties sharp-toothed unkindness like a vulture here. I can scarce speak to thee. Thou'lt not believe with how depraved a quality. Oh, Regan, what's he doing? What's he hoping for? Yet have I left a daughter. She's going to pity him. She's going to say, oh, I understand. She's awful. I'll take you in. It's okay. There. I pray you, sir, take patience. I have hope you less know how to value her desert, meaning her deserving, than she to scant her duty. She couldn't really mistreat you. You're just mistaking. Say, how's that? I cannot think my sister in the least would fail her obligation, if, sir, perchance she have restrained the riots of your followers. 'Tis on such ground and to such wholesome end as clears her from all blame. My curse is on her. Oh, sir, you are old. Nature in you stands on the very verge of his confine. You should be ruled and led by some discretion that discerns your state better than you yourself. It sounds like the letter that Edmund wrote in the name of Edgar, right? Same idea. Therefore I pray you that to our sister you do make return, say you have wronged her. Ask her forgiveness? Do you but mark how this becomes the house? And then he goes into this kind of comedy act. He kneels. Dear daughter, I confess that I am old. Age is unnecessary. On my knees I beg that you'll vouchsafe me raiment, bed, and food. Sounding like a beggar. So, mark how this becomes. Is this becoming? Does this fit? Is this what you want to see? She says, good sir, no more. These are unsightly tricks. Return to my sister. Return you to my sister. That's an order. Return you to my sister. Never, Regan. She hath abated me of half my train, looked black upon me, struck me with her tongue most serpent-like upon the very heart. All the stored vengeances of heaven fall on her in grateful top. Strike her young bones, you taking airs with lameness. So he had a whole set of curses on her before, and he's going on with them now. Fie, sir, fie. That's not nice, says Cornwall. Ha! You nimble lightnings dart your blinding flames into her scornful eyes, infect her beauty, you fen-sucked fogs drawn by the powerful sun to fall and blister. Oh, the blessed God, so will you wish on me when the rash mood is on. No, Regan, thou shalt never have my curse. Thy tender-hefted nature shall not give thee o'er to harshness. Is this wishful thinking? Yep, defines it. Her eyes are fierce, but thine do comfort and not burn. 'Tis not in thee to grudge my pleasures, to cut off my train, to bandy hasty words, to scant my sizes, and in conclusion to oppose the bolt against my coming in. Nobody's done that yet, but they're about to. Regan gets the idea from him. Thou better knowest the offices of nature, bond of childhood, effects of courtesy, dues of gratitude. Thy half of the kingdom hast thou not forgot, wherein I thee endowed. Good sir, to the purpose. What's your point? Who put my man in the stocks? It's a trumpet. Oh, I know, it's my sister's. This approves her letter that she would soon be here. Is your lady come? Enter Oswald. Lear, this is a slave whose easy-borrowed pride dwells in the fickle grace of her he follows. Art out, varlet, from my sight. What means your grace? Who stalked my servant? Regan, I have good hope thou didst not know on't. Enter Goneril. Who comes here? Oh, heavens, if you do love old men, if your sweet sway allow obedience, if you yourselves are old, make it your cause. Send down and take my part. Gods, you do what I want you to. Get on my side. Is he looking back and seeing why he got into this position in the first place? No, not yet. To Goneril, art not ashamed to look upon this beard? Oh, Regan, will you take her by the hand? Goneril, why not by the hand, sir? How have I offended? All's not offense that indiscretion finds, and dotage terms so. You are indiscretion, you are dotage. Oh, sides, you are too tough. Will you yet hold? How came my man in the stocks? I set him there, sir, but his own disorders deserved much less advancement. You? Did you? Regan, I pray you, father, being weak, seems so. Go back to Goneril and then come to me in a month. And only with the number of people that you really need. Return to her and 50 men dismissed? No, rather abjure all roofs and choose to wage against the enmity of the air, to be a comrade with the wolf and owl, necessity's sharp pinch. Return with her? Why, the hot-blooded France that dowerless took our youngest born. Boy, he didn't seem hot-blooded to us then, did he? He was kind of quick on the uptake, but it was a good judgment that he married Cordelia. But from Lear's point of view, he was hot-blooded. Dowerless took our youngest born. I could as well be brought to knee his throne, and squire like pension beg to keep base life afoot. The King of England kneeling at the throne of France? Not okay in any time, not Shakespeare's time. Return with her? Persuade me rather to be slave and sumpter to this detested groom, meaning Oswald. At your choice, sir. Oh boy. I prithee, daughter, do not make me mad. I will not trouble thee, my child. Farewell. We'll no more meet, no more see one another. So that sounds like, oh, he's going to overcome this violence and just let it go. Good luck. But yet thou art my flesh, my blood, my daughter, or rather a disease that's in my flesh, which I must needs call mine. Thou art a boil, a plague sore, or embossed carbuncle in my corrupted blood. But I'll not chide thee. Let shame come when it will, I do not call it. I do not bid the thunder-bearer shoot, nor tell tales of thee to high judging Jove. Mend when thou canst, be better at thy leisure. I can be patient. I can stay with Regan, I and my 100 knights. What?
Good luck with that.
Good luck with that. It's just like saying no, yes, no, right? Not altogether so. Pa-pum, 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 pa-pum. No, it's actually I and my 100 knights, not altogether so. It's a hexameter, I guess. I look not for you yet, nor am provided for your fit welcome. Give ear, sir, to my sister. For those that mingle reason with your passion must be content to think you old, and so, but she knows what she does. Is this well spoken? I dare vouch it, sir. What, 50 followers? Is it not well? What should you need of more? Yea, or so many, since that both charge and danger speak against so great a number. How in one house should many people under 2 commands hold amity? 'Tis hard, almost impossible. Why might not you, my lord, receive attendance from those that she calls servants, or from mine? Why not, my lord? If then they chance to slack you, we could control them. If you will come to me, for now I spy a danger, I entreat you to bring but 5 and 20. To no more will I give place or notice. I gave you all. And in good time you gave it. Made you my guardians, my depositaries, but kept a reservation to be followed with such a number. What, must I come to you with 5 and 20? Regan, said you so? And speak it again, my lord, no more with me. Now what does he do? Those wicked creatures yet do look well favored when others are more wicked. Not being the worst stands in some rank of praise, not in this crowd. I'll go with thee, he says to Goneril. Thy 50 yet doth double 5 and 20, and thou art twice her love. Really? Arithmetically. This carries us right straight back to which of you shall we say doth love us most? What kind of game is this? What kind of world is he living in which love is measured this way, by numbers or by degree of flattery? He's not yet got it. You are twice her love. Well, Goneril could say, okay, that's fine then. 50. She doesn't. She says, hear me, my lord, what need you 5 and 20, 10 or 5? To follow in a house where twice so many have a command to tend you. And of course, Regan chimes in with her typical go one step further, what need 1? Oh, reason not the need. Our basest beggars are in the poorest things superfluous. Allow not nature more than nature needs. Man's life is cheap as beasts. Thou art a lady, if only to go warm were gorgeous. Why, nature needs not what thou gorgeous wear'st, which scarcely keeps thee warm. But for true need, you heavens, give me that patience. Patience I need. What does patience mean? What does he mean by patience?
Forbearance.
Yeah, it's partly both of those. It comes from the Latin deponent verb patior, to bear or suffer, to undergo, to take it on and bear it. So patience means the willingness. There's that human free will, the willingness to bear suffering. Now, that doesn't mean to bear what must not be borne. Sometimes you have to fight, like to fight when I cannot choose, says Kent the other day. But to bear what you have to bear because there's no other way is patience. And so he's calling for patience. But is he patient? Not yet. You see me here, you gods, a poor old man, as full of grief as age, wretched in both. That sounds promising. Sounds maybe almost on the edge of humility, yes? But watch. If it be you that stirs these daughters' hearts against their father, fool me not so much to bear it tamely. Touch me with noble anger. Does that sound like patience? And let not women's weapons water drops stain my man's cheeks. No, you unnatural hags, I will have such revenges on you both that all the world shall... I will do such things, what they are, yet I know not, but they shall be the terrors of the earth. You think I'll weep? No, I'll not weep. I have full cause of weeping, but this heart shall break into 100,000 flaws, or ere I'll weep. Oh, fool, I shall go mad. And he runs out. Oh, by the way, the storm just cracked. Why? His mind. Yes. So the outside world, what is a storm? It's a war of the elements. Water and fire are fighting against earth and air. They're fighting each other, right? Chaos. And so what's going on in him is the same. There's this fight. And the fight is between that part of him that says, I will have it my way, and reality that's saying, no, you won't. Now, you've brought this on yourself, but you don't see it. But he can't accept that. And he can't even accept what's really happening. So one minute he wants patience, and the next minute he's calling on these curses and saying, I will do such things. But will he? No, he can't. There's nothing left to do it with. They shall be the terrors of the earth. Well, the play is a terror of the earth to us, in a sense, but not in the sense he means. He's not going to weep. His willfulness is turned inward, down hysterica passio, right? I will not weep. Well, this is the war within the self. Until he weeps for what he's done, there's no salvation here. There's no way forward. So preventing himself from weeping is a dead end. And because it is, his mind is cracking. It's the immovable, the irresistible force hitting the immovable object, right? The irresistible force of Lear's will and the immovable object of reality. Let us withdraw, 'twill be a storm. So they all give their excuses. Goneril says, my lord to Gloucester, entreat him by no means to stay. Line 300, alack, the night comes on, and the high winds do sorely ruffle. For many miles about there's scarce a bush. Regan. Oh, sir, to willful men, the injuries that they themselves procure must be their schoolmasters. Shut up your doors. I just want to point out one of the elements of Shakespeare's genius. It is nothing that you or I could ever think of doing normally. He puts the truth in the mouth of the villain sometimes. Now, her motive is villainous and evil. And for her to say this about her father with this hard-hearted attitude is an outrage. It doesn't make anything good about her. But what she's saying is one of the essential truths of the play. To willful men, their injuries that they themselves procure must be their schoolmasters. They have to learn from the consequences of their own choices. Now, she doesn't apply it to herself. And right now, she's in a state where she can say it about him perfectly happily, which is a sign of her villainy and ugliness. But she's saying what's true. Shut up your doors, my lord, 'tis a wild night. My Regan counsels well. Come out of the storm. And they go out of the storm. End of Act 2. Okay, I'll take a breath. You ask me questions. Yes?
Is it clear whether his madness maybe is preceding his actions? That madness is independent and that's why things are unfolding like this?
If that is what Shakespeare wanted us to think, he wouldn't have written the play this way. We would have seen that he was mad early on. Now, Kent calls him mad. What wouldst thou do, old man? But it's mad because it's foolish. But it's not because it's insane. It's not like he's lost his mind. Now he's losing his mind, and we're going to see him actually crazy pretty soon. So, no, the madness, I mean, unless you want to call foolish willfulness a form of madness, but then I think you're confusing terms. Then, you know, if the minute you call it madness, he can't help it and there's no play. You know, who cares if he can't help it, right? If Regan and Goneril and Edmund can't help being what they are, this is what Edmund was complaining about Gloucester. You're blaming the stars. We can't help it. We're going to just be what we are. There's no human free will. So then it's not an interesting play. What's the point? Why bother? It only matters if we have free will and if we experience the consequences of our choices and have to learn from that. And then we make other choices with our free will by experience. If we can't learn that, why bother going to a play or writing one? Yeah.
So what's the Elizabethan audience thinking about this shifting and particularly of the daughters?
They're not shifting at all. They're just confirming what they promised to be in the beginning, right?
But that's outrageous in an era
Right.
where women.
They're horrified. They're absolutely horrified.
And because I can't remember the order of the plays enough to know, is this the first sort of evil or wanton woman in his plays, or did they come to expect that?
Oh, I see what you're asking. No, I don't think they expected this. Some of them might have known the earlier King Lear play, but no, this is horrific at a newly profound level. The next play is Macbeth, and we get Lady Macbeth, so she goes in better.
Taming of the Shrew afterwards.
Taming of the Shrew is much earlier, but she is not evil. She's just willful. Yeah. No, we've entered into a new realm of evil. I'm trying to think if there's an evil woman before this. I'll have to look at my list of plays and see, but well, there's Gertrude in Hamlet, but she's not particularly evil. There's Cressida. She's corrupted,
Right.
but she's not willfully evil this way. No, these two are a piece of work. Other questions? Onward, or do you want to take a break? Onward? No objections? Okay. Act 3, Scene 1. I'm not going to read this whole scene. This is a scene in which Kent and the gentleman meet, and we hear hints of what's coming. Cordelia coming with an army from France to help, and they're going to go look for the king and try to help him out. Albany and Cornwall are on the point of conflict. Send a message to Cordelia that I've got her message. Storm still. Still in Shakespeare means always. So this is constant storming. So the guy guy upstairs with the metal sheet, with the thunder, rolling the bowling balls, or the cannonballs rather. So that's going on the whole time. And then, this is daytime with sunlight. So it's a question of what they're doing for lightning. But you could sometimes have a foil behind a candle and get the light to shine in people's eyes. They may have done that. I don't really know.
Sure, there was some sort of theater magic going on there.
It's in the words. If nothing else, it's in the words. Now watch Lear. Well, let me read it and then I'll point out what he's doing.
What line are you?
I'm at Act 3, Scene 2, line 1. Blow, winds, and crack your cheeks. Rage, blow. You cataracts and hurricanes, spout till you have drenched our steeples, drowned the cocks. You sulphurous and thought-executing fires, vaunt couriers of oak-cleaving thunderbolts, singe my white head. And thou, all shaking thunder, strike flat the thick rotundity of the world, crack nature's molds, all Germans spilled at once, that makes ingrateful man. Well, first of all, it's just the 4 elements. Earth, air, fire, water. Blow winds and crack your cheeks, rage blow, that's air. You cataracts and hurricanes, spout till you have drenched our steeples, drown the cocks, that's the weathercock at the top of the church steeple. So that's water. Sulphurous and thought-executing fires, that's lightning. Vaunt couriers of oak-cleaving thunderbolts. And strike flat the thick rotundity of the world, that's earth. Crack nature's molds. He's appealing to the 4 elements to enter into a relation of total chaos, so that all the forms in which nature takes shape, we would say, separate out and dissolve all DNA. No more creatures, no more living things. All Germans, all seeds, spill at once, that makes ingrateful man. So he's calling upon nature itself, he's calling on the elements to destroy even himself, because man is ungrateful. Well, we completely sympathize with his rage at the ingratitude of the sisters. But he was warned that he was giving that ingratitude power to work against him. And he hasn't seen that yet. Fool, oh nuncle, court holy water in a dry house is better than this rainwater out of door. Good nuncle in, ask thy daughter's blessing. Here's a knight pities neither wise man nor fool. So the fool is now reduced to even practical desire for shelter, because this is too scary. Like, this is beyond and over. This is not a good time for him to be teaching Lear lessons. Court holy water means flattery. Go back and flatter them just to get inside. That's how extreme the reduction to which we've been subjected. Lear doesn't listen. Rumble thy bellyful, spit fire, spout rain, nor rain, wind, thunder, fire are my daughters. I tax not you, you elements, with unkindness. I never gave you kingdom, called you children. You owe me no subscription. Then let fall your horrible pleasure. Here I stand your slave, a poor, infirm, weak, and despised old man. Well, yeah, but does he yet mean it? I don't blame you. You're not my daughters. I didn't give you everything. Go ahead, beat me up. It's okay. I'm reduced to nothing. And then he says, but yet. So he's not ready yet to give up that willfulness. But yet I call you servile ministers, that will with two pernicious daughters join your high-engendered battles against a head so old and white as this. Oh, ho, 'tis foul. No fair what you're doing. It's wrong. You're in cahoots with my daughters. How awful. I don't deserve this. Fool, he that has a house to put his head in has a good headpiece. If you have a house to lie down in and protect your head, then you have good brains. The codpiece that will house before the head has any. The head and he shall louse, so beggars marry many. The man that makes his toe what he his heart should make shall of a corn cry woe and turn his sleep to wake. If you obey your foot instead of your mind, you're going to suffer from the problems of the foot. Following the codpiece. You know what the codpiece is? Does everybody know what this is? Do I have to explain it? Codpiece is the cloth bag in which males who are wearing tights kept their genitals. And they often also kept jewels and a purse of money there, so they'd know if somebody was trying to pick their pocket. So he's talking about lice here. He's talking about lice below and lice above. For there was never yet fair woman, but she made mouths in a glass. That is vanity. No, I will be the pattern of all patience. I will say nothing. Yeah, right. Who's there? Fool. Mary, here's grace and a codpiece. That's a wise man and a fool. Alas, sir, are you here? There are things that love not such nights as these. Since I was man, such sheets of fire, such bursts of horrid thunder, such groans of roaring wind and rain, earth, air, fire, and water, I never remember to have heard. This is the worst storm that's ever been. Man's nature cannot carry the affliction nor the fear. Lear, let the great gods that keep this dreadful putter o'er our heads find out their enemies now. I'm on the side of the gods. Let's find out our enemies. Tremble, thou wretch, that hast within thee undivulged crimes, unwhipped of justice. Hide thee, thou bloody hand, thou perjured, and thou simular of virtue that art incestuous. Caitiff, to pieces shake, that under covert and convenient seeming hath practiced on man's life. Close pent-up guilts, rive your concealing continence and cry these dreadful summoners grace. I am a man more sinned against than sinning. Is it true?
No.
Yeah, but is it really true? I mean,
He's not evil, they're evil. I mean, he's
I agree.
willful and
He is willful. He's given evil permission to operate, including against him. It was a terrible mistake, and he was willful, and that is evil. But he's not evil the way Goneril and Regan and Edmund are evil.
You asked if he was sinning, which he is.
He is, absolutely, but more. So, in our first reaction is no, our second reaction is yes, and our third reaction is no.
No, yes.
He is more sinned against than sinning, but he doesn't have any right to say so, because the power of these people to sin against him is given by him, and he ought to have prevented it. Life is paradoxical, and it's agonizingly paradoxical. We don't hate him the way we hate them. Why not?
Didn't he sin against Cordelia?
Of course he did.
So, I mean, so that's sin.
No question about it. I'm not saying he's innocent. He's guilty. But we don't hate him the same. We don't loathe him the same way we do these vipers.
But it's weird that what the choice he made was to avoid all this.
That's right.
Which is,
Now, can you do that if you're a king?
no.
No, you have to take it on yourself and govern. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to divide it up and you do all the work. Yes, he did.
I still think he's every bit as sinful as they are. Granted, they have more purpose.
You're tough.
They are tough, but
No, you're tough.
uh-oh. But he is. Because he does have the responsibility of kingship.
He did. That's absolutely true. But they also have a responsibility to obey their father.
I agree, but I just think he's as guilty in his own way.
Those curses are pretty bad.
They're pretty bad, yeah.
He's not saying that he's not. He's not saying that he hasn't sinned. He's just saying he's more sinned against.
Yeah, but his impulse in saying that is still blind.
Yes.
He is not a man who's saying, you know what, it's my fault. I shouldn't have done.
I started this. He's every bit as.
He's not there yet.
I have a certain sympathy for him because he's become an old man. And he,
That's what he wants you to have. That's exactly what he's saying. Look at this. Look at this line of, here I stand your slave, a poor, infirm, weak, and despised old man. Okay, so then go huddle and shut up and stop telling the gods what to do. But no, sir.
but isn't that sort of typical of old people?
Well, it's typical of old people who haven't learned better,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Senile.
It's typical of old people who have not learned wisdom before they became old, which is what the fool said was his great crime. Thou shouldst not have been old till thou hadst been wise. Ugh.
The punning is really interesting in the beginning. There it talks about night and nights, isn't it?
Oh, on such a night? What do you mean? Where's he talking about nights?
Where, yeah, he's talking about night and possibly referring to the nights that he lost as well.
Oh, no, it's Kent who says, things that love night love not such nights as these. Yeah. Lear, my wits begin to turn. Come on, boy, to the fool. How dost, my boy, art cold? I think that's the first time in the play that Lear has ever paid attention to somebody else's need. I am cold myself. Where is this straw, my fellow? The art of our necessities is strange and can make vile things precious. Whoa! Can you make no use of nothing, nuncle? Vile things precious. Loss becomes a form of gain.
Hay becomes valuable.
Yeah. Come, your hovel, poor fool and knave, I have one part in my heart that's sorry yet for thee. Probably one of the hardest things to do as a parent is to spank a child. Am I right? You love the child. You want the best for the child. You are now making yourself, apparently, to the child, an enemy. You mean it for the good of the child in the long run. But it hurts. But it has to. What does this mean? Why is human life like this? Why must we suffer in order to be wise? Okay, we'll come back to that idea, of course. Fool sings, he that has an a little tiny wit, with a hey-ho, the wind and the rain. Remember the wind and the rain? The rain, it raineth every day in Twelfth Night? Remember what it meant? Must make content with his fortunes fit, though the rain, it raineth every day. Even though you're suffering every day from the rain, which they are in the storm, you must make content with your fortunes fit. You have to bring contentment up to the level of your fortunes, whatever they are. If you've got a lot, you can be content. But if you've got nothing, you still have to be content. Even though it raineth every day, even though you're tested and suffering every day. True boy, come, bring us to this hovel. Now the fool has this prophecy. People have argued about this prophecy, if it's interpolated or what it is. I think it makes perfect sense if you do one little operation, which is take line 92 and 3 and move it up till after line 85. And that's how I'm going to read it, and then it will make logical sense. When priests are more in word than matter, when brewers mar their malt with water, when nobles are their tailors' tutors, no heretics burn but wenches' suitors. So what are those 4 things, good or bad? Bad. Priests are more in word than in matter. Brewers are, watering the beer. Nobles are spending all their time with their tailors. And heretics aren't being burned, but suitors of wenches are being burned. Then go to line 92. Then shall the realm of Albion come to great confusion. Okay, this is bad. But, from line 86, when every case in law is right, no squire in debt nor no poor knight, when slanders do not live in tongues, nor cut purses come not to throngs, when usurers tell, meaning count their gold in the field that is in the open, not in secret and hiding, and bawds and whores do churches build, then comes the time who lives to see it, that going shall be used with feet. That if you want to walk, you use your feet. Meaning, that will be normal. That will be good. That will be reasonable. When is that going to happen? Can you see how the opposite of going shall be used with feet, you're going to walk but not with feet, is the characteristic of every vicious, topsy-turvy time. How many genders have we got now, for example? What kind of behavior are we fostering in a fantasy world of wishful thinking that has nothing to do with practical reality? I read a quotation that said that the fastest way to destroy a city short of bombing it is to put in rent control. What did you say?
I was going to ask you, could you help me with the realm of Albion?
Albion is England.
Thank you.
The white cliffs of England. It's an ancient name for England. Yeah. The Albions, is that what they're called? That's nice. All right, enter Gloucester and Edmund. So Gloucester says, they're coming to help us from France. I got a letter. We have to side with the king. That's the right thing to do. And then he says, if I die for it, as no less is threatened me, the king, my old master, must be relieved. So he's willing now to die to help the king. And he knows that that's a risk. But he's still blind. Why? Because who's he telling? Edmund. So the minute he goes out, Edmund says, this courtesy forbid thee, shall the duke instantly know. I'm going to give you away right now. And of that letter too, this seems a fair deserving and must draw me that which my father loses no less than all. The younger rises when the old doth fall. Well, yeah, but he's making the old fall in order to rise. So they come to this hovel in Act 3, Scene 4. And Lear says, they say, come in, and he says, thou think'st 'tis much that this contentious storm invades us to the skin, so 'tis to thee. But where the greater malady is fixed, the lesser is scarce felt. thou'lt shun a bear. But if thy flight lay toward the roaring sea, thou'lt meet the bear in the mouth. When the mind's free, the body's delicate. The tempest in my mind doth from my senses take all feeling else save what beats there. Filial ingratitude, is it not as this mouth should tear this hand for lifting food to it? But I will punish home. No, I will weep no more. It's such a night to shut me out. Pour on, I will endure. It's such a night as this. Oh, Regan Goneril, your old kind father whose frank heart gave all. Oh, that way madness lies. Let me shun that. No more of that. Do you see what's happening? Back and forth, back and forth. Oh, I feel sorry for myself. No, I better not let myself do that. Good my lord, enter here. Prithee go in thyself, seek thine own ease. This tempest will not give me leave to ponder on things would hurt me more, but I'll go in. In, boy, go first, you houseless poverty. Nay, get thee in, I'll pray, and then I'll sleep. And then he has this prayer. Poor naked wretches, wheresoe'er you are, that bide the pelting of this pitiless storm. How shall your houseless heads and unfed sides, your looped and windowed raggedness, defend you from seasons such as these? Oh, I have ta'en too little care of this. This is not a communist manifesto. This is a king recognizing his duty for the first time.
Too late.
Too late. Take physic, pomp. Expose thyself to feel what wretches feel, that thou mayst shake the superflux to them and show the heavens more just. He starts to undress, just to feel what the wretches feel. And suddenly, the man who has taken off all his clothes and has lowered himself to the level of madness shouts, fathom and a half, poor Tom. Fool comes back out. Come not in here, nuncle, here's a spirit. Help me, help me. Who's there? A spirit. He says his name's poor Tom. What art thou that dost grumble there in the straw? Come forth. Out comes Edgar. Now, completely undressed except for a loincloth, and mad as a hatter, but not really. Away, the foul fiend follows me. Look at the F's in alliteration. Through the sharp hawthorn blow the winds. Hum, go to thy bed and warm thee. Lear. Didst thou give all to thy daughters, and art thou come to this? What is that? What is that?
He's realizing.
The only thing that could make you come to this would be if you gave things to your daughter.
Right. So he's projecting from his own experience. Yes.
Just like we do with the sky.
What? Yes.
Is he taking responsibility?
Not quite. Not quite, but he is sympathetic to someone who isn't himself. And he sees himself in this creature. Of course, it's his godson. Did my godson take thy life? Try to take thy, you're right? Who gives anything to poor Tom, whom the foul fiend hath led through fire and through flame, through ford and whirlpool, o'er bog and quagmire, that hath laid knives under his pillow, so he would kill himself, and halters in his pew, so he would kill himself, set ratsbane by his... Who's doing this? The devil. So this is a particular kind of madness that poor Tom is playing at. It's the madness of religious mania gone bonkers, right? He thinks the foul fiend is pursuing him. And of course, we've seen the incarnation of fiends in a more realistic way. Yes, and Regan and Edmund. Set ratsbane by his porridge made him proud of heart to ride on a bay trotting horse over 4-inch bridges to course his own shadow for a traitor. Bless thy 5 wits, Tom's a cold. Oh, do-de-do-de-do-de-do. Bless thee from whirlwind, star blasting and taking, meaning by witches. Do poor Tom some charity, whom the foul fiend vexes. There could I have him now, and there, and there, and there again, and there. Storm still. Has his daughters brought him to this pass? Couldst thou save nothing? Wouldst thou give them all? Nay, he reserved a blanket, else we had all been shamed. Now all the plagues that in the pendulous air hang fated are men's faults, light on thy daughters. Light means land. So he's cursed his own daughters. Now he's cursing Edgar. Poor Tom's daughters, supposed daughters. He hath no daughters, sir. Death, traitor! Remind us of anything? Peace, Kent, on thy life no more. Do you remember in the first scene? Death, traitor, nothing could have subdued nature to such a lowness but his unkind daughters. Is it the fashion that discarded fathers should have thus little mercy on their flesh? Judicious punishment. 'Twas this flesh begot those pelican daughters. Okay, now we're maybe getting somewhere in this madness. He begot those daughters. Of course, he's blaming his flesh. It's not his flesh's fault. Pillicock sat on Pillicott Hill, alo, 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 lulu. That's hunting words. This cold night will turn us all to fools and madmen. Take heed of the foul fiend, obey thy parents, keep thy words justice, swear not, commit not with man's sworn spouse, set not thy sweet heart on proud array. What's that list? All but the last one. What? It's the 10 Commandments. Well, it's not all 10 of them, but it's several of them. What hast thou been? A serving man, proud in heart and mind, that curled my hair, wore gloves in my cap, served the lust of my mistress. Now, this is not Edgar. He didn't do all this stuff. This is what typical Tom of Bedlam characters have been before, and it drives them mad. So what did he do? Served the lust of my mistress' heart and did the act of darkness with her. Swore as many oaths as I spake words, broke them in the sweet face of heaven. One that slept in the contriving of lust and waked to do it. Wine loved I deeply, dice dearly, and in woman out paramored the Turk. False of heart, light of ear, bloody of hand, hog in sloth, fox in stealth, wolf in greediness, dog in madness, lion in prey. He's saying all this about himself in his madness because he's just listing all the violent, awful things that human beings can be. Let not the creaking of shoes nor the rustling of silks betray thy poor heart to woman. Keep thy foot out of brothels, thy hand out of plackets, thy pen from lenders' books, and defy the foul fiend. Of course, remember, this is the son of Gloucester, who has been unfaithful to his wife and begotten Edmund. Still through the hawthorn blows the cold wind, says Sum mun nani, Dolphin, my boy, Sessa, let him trot by. Storm still. Thou wert better in a grave than to answer with thy uncovered body this extremity of the skies. Is man no more than this? Consider him well. Thou owest the worm no silk, the beast no hide, the sheep no wool, the cat no perfume. Ha! Here's 3 on us are sophisticated. The fool, Kent, and Lear, all ruined. Storm bedraggled, cold, reduced. Here's 3 on us are sophisticated by comparison. Thou art the thing itself. Unaccommodated man is no more but such a poor, bare, forked animal as thou art. Off, you lendings. Come, unbutton here. He's going to take off his clothes in the storm. To be like poor, unaccommodated man. Give up everything. Take it all off. I want you to remember this button when we get to the end of the play. Fool, prithee, nuncle, be contented, 'tis a naughty night to swim in. Now a little fire in a wild field were like an old lecher's heart, a small spark, all the rest on's body cold. Still has the desire, but not the ability. Look, here comes a walking fire. In comes Gloucester with a torch. Okay, father and son, right? We've had father and daughters meeting and exploding. Now we have father and son, and they're not, or at least Gloucester's not recognizing his own son. Edgar. This is the foul flibberty gibbet. He begins at curfew and walks till the first cock. He gives the web and the pin, squints the eye, makes the hare lip, mildews the white heat, and hurts the poor creature of earth. Kent, how fares your grace? What's he? Who's there? What is you seek? What are you there? Your names? Oh boy, this is just. They can't see each other. They can't recognize each other. They don't know what's going on. They're lost. All of them. Who are you? Who are you? What's your name? Imagine out in the wilderness coming upon the king, and you don't know it's the king.
Isn't this more blindness?
Blindness, utter blindness, but now complicated by the storm and the night and the loss of clothing and the wet. What are you there? Your names? And Edgar starts. Poor Tom, that eats the swimming frog, the toad, the tadpole, the wall-newt, and the water, that in the fury of his heart, when the foul fiend rages, eats cow dung for salads, swallows the old rat and the ditch dog, drinks the green mantle of the standing pool. I mean, this is about as disgusting as it gets. Who is whipped from tithing to tithing and stock punished and imprisoned. Oh, stock punished. That sounds familiar. Kent is right there. Who hath had 3 suits to his back, 6 shirts to his body when he was a rich serving man. Horse to ride and weapon to wear. But mice and rats and such small deer have been Tom's food for 7 long year. Not really, just for a few days. Beware my follower, peace smoke in peace, thou fiend. Gloucester, what, hath your grace no better company than my son, whom I don't recognize? Who's a begging madman? Edgar, the Prince of Darkness is a gentleman. No better company. Well, the Prince of Darkness is a gentleman. He's our company. Modo he's called, and Mahu. Mahu in Hebrew means what is he? Our flesh and blood, my Lord, is grown so vile that it doth hate what gets it. We're in the same boat, you and I. Your daughters hate you, my son, but he thinks he means Edgar, hates me. And Edgar's response, poor Tom's a cold. How do you do this if you're Shakespeare? I mean, you could not possibly work this out in a diagram. Go in with me. My duty cannot suffer to obey in all your daughters' hard commands. Though their injunction be to bar my doors and let this tyrannous night take hold upon you, yet have I ventured to come out, seek you out and bring you where both fire and food is ready. Well, that would be great if Lear were in a condition to recognize this. But they're now in these completely different places. First, let me talk with this philosopher. He means poor Tom. What is the cause of thunder? Good my lord, take his offer. Go into the house. I'll talk a word with this same learned Theban. What is your study? How to prevent the fiend and to kill vermin. The spiritual and the material. Let me ask you one word in private. They go to the side. Importune him once more to go, my lord. His wits begin to unsettle. Canst thou blame him? His daughters seek his death. Ah, that good Kent. Who's he talking to? That good Kent. Not knowing it, of course. So everything is in disguise. Everything is it's not what it is. He said it would be thus, poor banished man. Thou sayest the king grows mad? I tell thee, friend, I'm almost mad myself. I had a son now outlawed from my blood. He sought my life, but lately, very late. I loved him, friend, no father his son dear. Oh yeah? Then why did you believe your vicious son, not knowing he's vicious, but why believe him before you get angry? The way King Lear got angry at Cordelia in the first scene. I loved him, friend, no father his son dear. True to tell thee, the grief hath crazed my wits. What a night's this, I do beseech your grace. Oh, cry you mercy, sir, noble philosopher, your company. Tom's a cold. You, to Edgar, get into the hovel. And I'm going to take the king to a house. Lear, come, let's all in to the hovel. Kent, this way, my lord. With him I will keep still, meaning always with my philosopher. Good, my lord, soothe him, let him take the fellow. Take him you on. Sirrah, come on, go along with us. Come, good Athenian, meaning philosopher. No words, hush. Edgar, child, roll into the dark tower, came his word was still, fie, foe, and fum, I smelled the blood of an Englishman. From Jack the Giant Killer, from an old poem. All right, Cornwall and Edmund are talking. Cornwall's going to help Edmund. Edmund's going to ruin his father. He takes Lear into this. Now it's like it's more than a hovel, but it's less than a house. Maybe it's like a barn or something.
I thought it was a cave.
It's not a cave. It's a kind of cheap cottagey kind of building. Maybe it's like, a stable with a manger in it. Here is better than the open air. Take it thankfully. I will piece out the comfort with what addition I can. I'm going to go get more if I can bring you. I will not be long from you. The gods reward your kindness. Frateretto calls me and tells me Nero is an angler in the lake of darkness. Nero is fishing in hell. Pray, innocent, and beware the foul fiend. Prithee, nuncle, tell me whether a madman be a gentleman or a yeoman. A king. No, he's a yeoman that has a gentleman to his son, for he's a mad yeoman that sees his son a gentleman before him, which is ironic because Shakespeare was a gentleman before his father was. To have I don't mean gentleman in a sense of being a good person. I mean a gentleman officially, by rank. To have 1,000 with red burning spits come hissing in on him. Revenge, murder. The foul fiend bites my back. He's mad that trusts in the tameness of a wolf, a horse's health, a boy's love, or a whore's oath. It shall be done. I will arraign them straight. Come, sit thou here, most learned justice. Thou, sapient sir, that's funny. The fool is the wise man, sapient sir. Sit here. So he's putting together a court of law to sit in judgment. Now, you she-foxes. I'm not going to read all Tom's hoppity dance and stuff. Kent is trying to get the king to lie down. He says, I'll see their trial first. Bring in their evidence to Edgar. Thou, robed man of justice, take thy place. And thou, his yokefellow of equity, bench by his side. To Kent, you are the commission. Sit you too. So we got these three reduced men, hopeless, sitting on this bench, pretending in Lear's mind to be justices in a court of law. Arraign her first. 'Tis Goneril. I take here my oath before this honorable assembly, kicked the poor king her father. Come hither, mistress. Is your name Goneril? She cannot deny it. Cry you mercy, I took you for a joint stool. This is a cliche in Shakespeare's time. Oh, I didn't see you, I'm so sorry. The way of saying that is, I took you for a joint stool. Like I saw this out of the corner of my eye and I thought it was one of these. This is a joint stool. Sometimes it only had 3 legs. So there's nothing there. There's no Goneril there, of course. It's all in his mind. And here's another whose warped looks proclaim what store her heart is made on. Stop her there! Arms, arms! In the Olivier Lear, there's a chicken that he tries to grab and it gets away from them and cackles off. Corruption in the place, false justicer, why hast thou let her escape? Edgar, bless thy 5 wits. Oh, that is, he's pretending to be a madman, and King Lear is now really mad. Oh, pity, sir, pity is his own feeling. Ugh. I'm so moved by pity. Sir, where is the patience now that you so often boasted to retain? Edgar says, my tears begin to take his part so much they mar my counterfeiting. Now, this is the answer that you can quote to any stupid director who gives you an Edgar who's really gone mad because he's suffered so much and he's so abandoned and a poor guy and he's reduced to real madness. Balderdash. Counterfeiting. He's pretending to be mad. The little dogs and all, Tray, Blanche, and Sweetheart, see, they bark at me. Tom will throw his head at me. Then let them anatomize Regan, line 75. See what breeds about her heart. Is there any cause in nature that makes these hard hearts? Well, he's getting closer, isn't he? Because before he said to his philosopher, what is the cause of thunder? Well, you're out in the thunder because you didn't recognize the hard hearts around you. But now, what is the cause of the hard heart? You, sir, I entertain for one of my 100. This is to Edgar, naked nearly. Only I do not like the fashion of your garments. You will say they are Persian, meaning elegant and elaborate, but let them be changed. Now, good my lord, lie here and rest a while. Make no noise, draw the curtains. So, we'll go to supper in the morning. We're hungry, but we'll wait till morning to eat. And the fool, by the way, his last line, and I'll go to bed at noon. This is backwards, of course. Going shall be used with feet when things are good, but going to supper in the morning and going to bed at noon is not good. Now Gloucester comes in and says, nope, they're going to kill him. You've got to pick him up and get out of here. And they all go, and Edgar is left to say the following. When we our betters see bearing our woes, we scarcely think our miseries are foes. Who alone suffers most in the mind, leaving free things and happy shows behind. But then the mind much sufferance doth o'erskip when grief hath mates, and bearing fellowship. Misery loves company. We can bear our misery better when we've got company. Now how light and portable my pain seems now, when that which makes me bend makes the king bow. He childed as I fathered. Tom, away, mark the high noises and thyself bewray, that is, reveal yourself, when false opinion whose wrong thoughts defile thee, in thy just proof repeals and reconciles thee. So he has not and will not reveal himself to his father or to anyone until he can justify himself. What will hap more tonight? Safe scape the king. May the king safely escape. All right, in the next scene, Cornwall chases Edmund off with Goneril back to Albany. They need to get ready. The French are invading. They have to go fight. They're coming together to fight together. Even though they were about to fight each other, they're going to fight together against the French invasion. Go seek the traitor Gloucester, pinion him like a thief, bring him before us. Though well we may not pass upon his life without the form of justice, yet our power shall do a curtsy to our wrath, which men may blame but not control. It's better to apologize afterwards than to ask permission before. So he's going to do what he wants, though short of killing him. She plucks him by the beard. So white and such a traitor. Naughty lady, these hairs which thou dost ravish from my chin will quicken and accuse thee. Line 39. I am your host. With Robert's hands my hospitable favors you should not ruffle thus. What will you do? So anyone who's going to treat her father like this and the king like this is not particularly going to respect the host-guest relation, which is one of the most sacred in all civilization. Why? Why is it so sacred? The gods protect the host from the guest and the guest from the host, and you are terrified of hurting or allowing to be hurt your guest or your host. Why?
That comes from like the Greeks.
Yes, and older than that. But why is it? Why is it so basic? Why is it so protected by the gods in every culture?
I've been telling your neighbors to protect you sometimes, huh?
Well, you're close to it. It's because when you're a host or a guest, you are absolutely vulnerable. You're asleep. So the host can kill the guest with no problem, as Macbeth kills his. And the guest can kill the host equally easily. So,
But the guest can be a god.
yes, it can be a god. That's absolutely true. We know from Bacchus and Philemon. But it's that if there is no divine protection, there can be no practical protection in that situation. So everybody, every culture makes this an absolute value. And the girls, of course, are betraying it. Wherefore to Dover, because I would not see thy cruel nails pluck out his poor old eyes. He gives her the idea. And who's Regan? Oh, that's a good idea. Let's go for it. Nor thy fierce sister in his anointed flesh stick boorish fangs. The sea, with such a storm as his bare head in hell-black night endured, would have buoyed up and quenched the stellid fires. The sea would have put out the stars. Yet, poor old heart, he hoped the heavens to rain. If wolves had at thy gate howled that stern time, thou shouldst have said, good porter, turn the key, let them in. All cruels else subscribe, but I shall see the winged vengeance o'ertake such children. He's energized by the betrayal of his own son, as he thinks. And of course, he has been betrayed by his own son, but not the son he thinks. See it shalt thou never. And then the most horrible scene, they poke out his eyes. One side will mock another, the other too. The best part of this scene, if you could say it has any good parts, is the slave, not the slave, the servant. Hold your hand, my lord, I have served you ever since I was a child, but better service have I never done you than now to bid you hold. Okay, I'm going against your will to do you good. Does that sound familiar? Like whom? Kent. How now, you dog? If you did wear a beard, he says to her, upon your chin I'd shake it on this squirrel. What do you mean? Like, how can you possibly do this? My villain, he draws, and they fight, and while they're fighting, Regan takes a sword and stabs him from behind. Oh, I'm slain, my lord, you have one eye left to see some mischief on him. That is, I've stabbed him too. Lest it see more prevented. Out, vile jelly, where is thy luster now? All dark and comfortless. Where's my son Edmund? Edmund, enkindle all the sparks of nature. Of what? Of what? Of nature? Nature, thou art my goddess, said Edmund at the beginning. Do you think this is all accidental? Did Shakespeare trip into this? Enkindle all the sparks of nature, to quit, meaning requite, pay back this horrid act. Regan, out, treacherous villain, thou call'st on him that hates thee. It was he that made the overture of thy treasons to us, who is too good to pity thee. She's already starting to fall for Edmund. Oh, my folly, says Gloucester. Then Edgar was abused. Kind gods, forgive me that and prosper him. So, what just happened? The instant that he's blinded, he sees with moral sight. 1 second later. Go thrust him out at gates and let him smell his way to Dover. Cornwall, I've received a hurt. I bleed apace, meaning quickly. Then the servants have their little chat. This is from the folio, I think, not in the quarto. I'll never care what wickedness I do if this man, meaning Cornwall, come to good. If she live long and in the end meet the old course of death in a normal way, women will all turn monsters. I'll go fetch some flax and whites of eggs to apply to his bleeding face. Now heaven help him. So they're still decent people trying to do what's right. They're overruled by these powers, but there's still some goodness in the world. All right, we're at Act 4. I'm going to stop for a minute to see if you have questions. And Lear is off the stage now for almost a full act. We'll go to supper in the morning, and we don't see him for almost a full act. The war happens, the Gloucester plot develops, all this stuff goes on. And the next time we see Lear, he's flat out bonkers, but with a meaning to it, which we'll see. So ask me questions. Let's see where we are and where you are. Oh, I want you to answer my quiz.
Could you repeat it?
Yes. What is the true relation and difference between Kent and Oswald? Yes, good. Kent is courageous and brave. Oswald isn't. What else? Sorry? Perfect antithesis. How so?
How so?
How are they an antithesis? Is Kent serving Lear, his master?
Yes.
Is Oswald serving Goneril, his mistress?
Yes.
So what's the difference? They're both loyal to their respective masters.
The one sees good and the other one doesn't recognize evil.
What do you mean? Say that, explain.
Well, Kent sees good and that's why he serves him.
Okay.
And Oswald serves Goneril, not recognizing evil.
Okay, good. So you're on the exact right track. Kent is serving the good of Lear against the will of Lear. Oswald is serving the evil of Goneril with Goneril's will. So the difference between Lear and Goneril is crucial, and the difference in service is crucial. And what that does is it punctuates or dramatizes what's really going on in this play, which is the difference between the outer and the inner. I mean, that's a constant theme in Shakespeare, right? The appearance and the reality. Kent is serving the reality of Lear's good, and he's destroyed by doing it. But he's willing to be destroyed. My life I never held but as a pawn to wage against thine enemies. Even if thine enemy is you, old man. Whereas Oswald, whatever Goneril wants, she wants to do this horrible thing, fine. She wants to mistreat her father, good, I'm with her. He's one of those guys riding the wheel up the hill, right? Because he thinks Goneril's in the ascendant. Well, he dies for it. But the point, I think, that of my quiz is to emphasize the difference between service and true service, between serving the evil will of your master and serving the good, even if it's against your master. So here the servant goes to fight Cornwall to stop him from doing evil. I've never done you better service than telling you to stop this. And he dies for it. Okay. Other questions? Comments? All right, I'll read an Edgar speech or two and then...
Do you have the fable that this came from?
The fable?
Yeah,
What fable do you mean?
it's an old story.
There was an old play called King Lear, Leir. Yeah, and there are ancient stories that tell of this. Yeah, so what's your point about them? Shakespeare knew them.
Because, like, there's no build-up to the daughters being so bad.
Right.
They get money, they lie about how much they care about them, but to, like, be as bad as they are, there's no lead-up to that.
What do you mean by lead up?
You don't get to see them as children.
Oh, I see.
They become evil.
Correct. You're right. We don't have their biography. We don't have a mother in the picture, never mentioned. We don't have any development of the cause of this. We do have it in Edmund, right? Because we know he's a son of adultery. We know he's a bastard. We know he's been out 9 years and he's being sent away again, presumably. We know that he wants land, that he doesn't value the law of nations and custom. He just values nature and his own advantage. So this is an example of how Shakespeare can use this double plot. I don't think you weren't here the other night, so I was talking about the double plot. To accomplish this, he doesn't have to do it with the daughters because he's done it with Edmund. So Edmund, we get the practical psychological background of this kind of attitude. In them, we don't need that. We just are given the direct horror of their hollowness, their moral emptiness. And we get it right from the start in that flattery. So we can see through them. And I mean, when he says in this last act, what's the cause of these hard hearts? We're thrown right into the problem of the free will. Either human beings have free will, and they can choose to be bad, or they don't, in which case punishment and reward are meaningless. So he is assuming that free will matters. He is assuming that they have chosen to be this. They may have all kinds of excuses, and they give some, like he's ever but slenderly known himself, and the best of his time has been rash, and probably they're rationalizing. It's probably not been as bad as they think, but maybe it has. But does it matter? He's still their father and still the king, and it's those fundamentals that they're going against. And it almost doesn't matter what their psychology is. That human beings can become like that, we know. And we know it because we see it in front of us. But again, it's partly Shakespeare's dispensed with the need for that by giving us Edmund, where we do get some background. Not a lot, but some. It's going to come back too, the dark place where he, the got, cost him his eyes. Edgar's going to see the whirligig of time coming around.
I'm just looking at this one speech by the fool where he says that man must be content with his lot.
With his fortune, he must make...
That reminds me of the Rappaport. You know,
Right? Who is rich?
he was content. And I wondered, would Shakespeare, would he have come up with that on his own, or would it know?
It's traditional. It's not just Pirkei Avot. Pirkei Avot gives it...
It's a well-known topic.
Yeah, it comes... It spreads. But yeah, I mean, Lear, in a sense, is trying to impose contentment on himself by giving up the kingship and crawling towards death. But it's a fantasy. It's a sentimentality. He doesn't really mean it. He still thinks he's going to walk around behaving like a king and everybody's going to bow down to him and do what he says. So he who is content with what he has is wisdom, but you have really to be content with what you have, not just pretend to be.
This comes from the fool.
Yeah, right. who is wise.